Hello and welcome to another episode of the Workforce Workshop. In today's episode, we will talk about why an organization should choose managed services and not staff augmentation. So, managed services versus staff augmentation, which one should you choose? Due to an increased emphasis on companies outsourcing cybersecurity network maintenance and network monitoring services, the managed services market may witness a sizable growth in the coming years. As per recent studies by Global Market Insights, Inc., the market may surpass $350 billion by 2026. During the past decade, the IT outsourcing industry has proliferated, and staff augmentation versus managed service providers has been prominent topic debate for IT managers. Businesses can quickly scale up their development teams with resource consultants from across the globe, with advancements in development technologies, communication tools, and project management tools. When considering IT outsourcing, most businesses compare staff augmentation against managed services. These are the two of the most popular outsourcing methods. Information technology departments tasked with introducing new projects will need to outsource them to fulfill their objectives. By outsourcing IT, permanent employee skills can be augmented. IT managed services as well as staff augmentation are two models utilized to improve the workforce. Before selecting one that will work with your chosen projects, in order to meet the goals, it is essential to consider these two trusted alternatives thoroughly. So, what is the most critical step? Before hiring third-party experts to boost your IT team, assess whether your existing business model is in line with your desired one. An understanding of how the necessary structural transformation can be accomplished should emerge as a result. We are looking for a detailed plan of what needs to be done. In addition to budget and time, the idea of setting goals and developing necessary skills can give an idea of flow to get things done. The executive team must make these ingredients into something digestible for the existing staff. It is possible to determine if managed services or staff augmentation is better suited to a project based on the proportion of their ingredients. Studying the differences between managed services and staff augmentation should follow an overall vision of the future IT staff infrastructure. The budget is not a deciding factor every time, despite popular belief. Let's first understand what is staff augmentation. Staff augmentation was created to deal with budgetary pressures, short-term resources constraints, and increased headcount requirements. When the organization needed skills for immediate and short-term commitments, this method was most effective. Operating executives filled their internal resources gap with external resources, instead of hiring individuals in fixed roles. Upon completion of the project, the external resource would be removed from the manager's budget. Since most short-term experts work remotely or from the augmented company's facilities, infrastructure expenses are also reduced. Besides being cost-effective, it saves time and effort by eliminating the needs to go through a rigorous application process. Staff augmentation has seen a dramatic increase in recent years. Globally, $10 billion has been spent on staff augmentation. This is due to several market factors, such as the proliferation of experts who are choosing to work as independent contractors, declining salaries, and hiring restrictions maintained by most companies. From a budgetary perspective, staff augmentation only works if the contract for the external resource is for a short period of time. A staff augmentation strategy's best feature is the parent company's responsibility to supervise additional employees. As a result, the temporary employees are accountable to the parent company. Now, let us learn what is a managed service provider. When selecting a managed service provider, customers look beyond traditional outsourcing criteria or hiring short-term contract staff to get the long-term benefits they expect. The idea is to look beyond the initial saving plan and ask what's next. A traditional managed service model can be used to outsource process management activities and delivery efficiently to reduce the overall cost of the business. Managed services provides additional assistance that saves you time and money. Managed services relieve you of time-consuming but necessary tasks. With the right resources and people, you will be able to achieve all the best results. Effectiveness and productivity will improve as a result of your strategic measures. This makes your model an interesting long-term strategy. As a result of the pricing structure of regular monthly billing across different service levels and volumes rather than per diem charges related to staff augmentation, company expenses remain within the forecast. Expense predictability and accuracy are encouraged. The MSPs deal with projects independently and do not consult with the current business on any decisions. A formal agreement is signed before any collaboration begins. An MSP's responsibility is to fulfill its obligations following its procedures based on such contracts. Now, we shall learn various aspects of staff augmentation. The first one features an essential feature of staff augmentation services is that they allow you to scale up your resources quickly. An increased workload can be handled promptly with additional resources when necessary. Implementing this strategy can be helpful when it is time to hire individuals with specialized skills. Staff augmentation services can be used to fill gaps on an as-needed basis instead of having to start all over again when hiring with full-time employees. The second one are the advantages. The first advantage that we can bring to the table, savings on cost. In addition to its high regard due to its cost saving, staff augmentation is one of the most popular methods of staffing. Scaling up a team with a staff augmentation services will cost a company a lot less than hiring new employees. Adding new employees can only be used for a short period of time since the resources acquired from the hiring process are temporary. The expense of hiring them ends once the work is completed, so they can only be paid for the work they have done. 2. Access a broader talent pool. When a specialized task is needed, the initial development team may not have the necessary skills. The use of staff augmentation allows organizations to get access quickly to highly qualified developers, designers, project managers, and more. The project is less likely to be disrupted as people with the required skills can quickly be brought on board. They can start the project and continue working on it so that it can be completed on time. 3. Adaptability. It is possible to add more resources quickly if they are needed at one stage. As soon as staff augmentation service provider does not need them, they can return them to the company. The only way to achieve such scalability and flexibility is through staff augmentation. That is why it's the best way to fulfill short-term requirements, no matter the project's complexity. The third point that we need to cover are the disadvantages, like supervisory oversight. When deciding between the benefits of staff augmentation and managed services, it is essential to consider its drawbacks. Since external talent is not a part of the company, additional oversight is needed when onboarding them. The work that they do may require more supervision to ensure that nothing slips through the cracks. The second one is the bottleneck when the work must be done. According to rigid internal processes, this can often become a bottleneck. To ensure always being in compliance with the methods, the new workers must first be trained. The third point, higher long-term costs. The cost benefit of staff augmentation can be eliminated if circumstances change and resources are retained for longer time. Staff augmentation is not suitable for long-term resource allocation allocation can be used for temporary needs, projects with a low budget, projects requiring flexibility. Now, staff augmentation inhibitors and biases. There are a number of factors arising from the particular feature of staff augmentation in terms of both the employment type and management style inherent in the model. There is a possibility that the newly appearing embedded team will have an impact on a company overall operating model. Organization leaders should have specific strategic management skills, but this is not the case for many small and mid-sized businesses. Embedded specs have higher hourly rates against a simpler pricing model and a more rigid staff management system to explain the apparent ambivalence associated with cost efficiency. The simple process of contracting limits the contractual obligation of both parties without requiring a long-term partnership, as long as an organization is responsible for its operations. The simple hourly rate pricing model implies that it is also responsible for the project's results and its future success. Now, let's understand managed services. First, the features of managed services. Often, owners of small businesses want to outsource all their IT operations so they can focus more on growing their businesses. Managed services can meet these needs effectively. The third point, party experts handle the entire IT infrastructure, maintenance, management, upgrades, and any other tasks that the client may need are their responsibilities. The second one are the advantages. So when we focus on core business goals, are you enabled to focus on core business objectives due to the management of your IT infrastructure taking so much time? If so, your business may suffer in the future. The benefits of a managed service provider can be obtained by allowing you to use end-to-end solution that addresses the infrastructure without having to worry about it. You can focus on achieving your business goals while the service provider handles everything that needs to be done. The second point is long-term lower costs. Managed services should only be used as a long-term solution to take advantage of the lower costs overall. The service provider can also package the cost into a set monthly annual payment, making IT expenses more predictable. Due to the promise of long-term contract, the service provider can be more flexible on price than staff augmentation services, where contracts can frequently last only a few months. Number 3, the 24/7 customer support. IT systems must be continually monitored, both as a hassle and as a necessity. By outsourcing the task to a managed service provider, you can be assured that someone is always keeping an eye on things. A support person will be available immediately if the system goes down in the middle of the night or a problem arises out of the blue. The third point are the disadvantages of managed services. So the first one that we can mention is the inflexibility. IT teams within an organization are open to experimenting with different ideas, testing out various programs and framework to find one of the best that meets the needs of their organization. Depending on the managed service provider you choose, they may have a preferred framework or program. There is a possibility that they will not be willing to work with your internal team to test different things. The second point is the confidentiality concern. Keep in mind, when outsourcing IT management to a service provider, that they may be outsourcing some of their technical tasks as well, possibly to a team overseas. Make sure that your managed service provider is willing to sign an NDA if you need confidentiality, if that is the case for you. The third point is providers may have also limitations. There are many limitations to how managed service providers approach projects. Some users may add one user at a time, while others may limit that to a set number. Discuss whether there are any such limitations that you need to consider with your service provider. Useful for developing long-term projects. Outsourcing whole projects, cost saving accumulated over time. Now, let's talk about staff augmentation versus managed services. Both have their advantages and disadvantages as well. Before you can decide which suits your needs the most, you must have a thorough understanding of both. The first one is budget friendliness versus targeted results. The objective of the parent company is the first and most crucial difference between the two. Businesses can choose between the two models according to their preferences. The staff augmentation model facilitates a capital efficient staffing model that significantly reduces operational costs. In terms of cost effectiveness, it is the best choice for companies looking to expand their business. Additionally, managed services are the great option if your business has specific requirements. MSPs are partnering with these companies and guiding them towards specific goals. The MSPs then have discretion over how the process of achieving the particular outcome will be conducted. On the other hand, managed services encourage the achievement of desired results, while staff augmentation offers cost reduction. The second, authoritative versus discretionary. Even though both models carry the same weight, there are two main differences between managed services and staff augmentation: autonomy and discretion. The parent company holds an important position in the management of processes regarding staff augmentation. Therefore, the final decision remains with the parent company. When it comes to managed services, though, they include the delegation of discretionary authority. MSPs take over the autonomy of their projects from their parent companies. Managed services transfer this responsibility to MSP from the parent business under staff augmentation. The third one, flexibility versus accountability when recruiting. There are different strengths and weaknesses between the two IT outsourcing models. Through staff augmentation, the parent company is able to perform hiring processes quickly, example, on the spot, according to the project's needs. In this model, the parent company has the ability to hire staff for short-term periods, which is a testament of the flexibility provided. MSPs, on the other hand, place emphasis on their accountability to the parent company. Before entering into any partnerships with MSPs, prepare a list of goals and objectives. The MSP is therefore responsible for fulfilling all commitments as well as ensuring timely delivery. As a result, these two outsourcing models fulfill distinctly different needs. Managed services guarantee accountability to parent companies, whereas staff augmentation offers a flexible model of incorporating qualified experts into the organization. The fourth point emphasizes on relationships, short-term versus long-term. These two differ in the duration of their relationships with their parent companies between the service seeker and the provider of staff augmentation. There is only a short-term relationship in this case. This relationship is primarily transactional and temporary. Staff augmentation companies do not provide staffing assistance to parent companies after they drill staffing assistance. It often happens that the relationship is revived when a new staffing need arises. MSPs, on the other hand, maintain close relationships with their parent companies. These relationships are based on reciprocity and information sharing. As a result, the MSP becomes the parent company's technical expert and information source. An MSP's relationship with its parent company for both partners is long-term, mutually beneficial and mutually reinforcing. The provision of staff augmentation is short-term, whereas managed services building long-term relationships. The fifth point is scaling operations versus scaling projects. In terms of scalability, both staff augmentation and managed services have their advantages and disadvantages. In terms of increased demand for qualified IT professionals, IT staff augmentation provides a significant opportunity for project scaling. To meet the scalability requirements and demands, any additions to the existing workforce are a convenient solution. However, it does not suggest any feasible solutions for scaling operations and sharing knowledge. Managed services, on the other hand, can provide complete consultation in order to scale operations. Adding responsibilities to an existing project is more accessible than creating a new task force. The latter, while flexible, may be time-consuming in the event of continuous operations. Thus, the two models offer different options in terms of scalability, satisfying diverse needs. So now, managed services versus staff augmentation, which one to choose? In the end, it depends on what type of outsourcing is best for your organization. Both are so different, you can tell at the best glance. When an organization is in need of short-term solution, where talent is needed to fill a gap immediately and for a relative short period of time, they should turn to staff augmentation. The kind of flexibility and cost saving they are looking for can only be achieved through this method. On the other hand, managed services are a better choice for organizations that wish to outsource their entire project. Knowing that you have a dedicated team working on your project gives you a peace of mind. Additionally, it makes their IT outsourcing costs predictable and allows them to save money in the long run. Let's conclude this episode here. Managed services differ from staff augmentation in several fundamental ways. If an organization wants to strengthen its IT department, it should analyze the differences and select the model that best fits its goals. To summarize the main characteristics of the models, the following three stand out. The first one, temporary factor. Staff augmentation works well for short-term projects with a set timeline. Generally, managed IT particular projects do not have time limit services. Model of pricing. Most staff augmentation services are priced on an hourly basis. Managed IT services need to apply pricing based on the scope and level of service they deliver. Responsibilities and control. Using staff augmentation, companies can control their hiring operations and processes of their projects without having to assume responsibility for the outcome. Managed service providers take responsibility for employment, workflow, and project management in order to work with their customers to achieve success in the future. In some cases, determining the suitable staffing model can be difficult. There is a role for external circumstances as well as project nuances. Finding a professional service provider who has experience with both models equally is the universal solution in such a case. That's all for today's episode. In the next one, we will be discussing about inbound recruiting, benefits, drawbacks, and 11 tips to get you started. Links to everything will be in the description below. If you like our content, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. It will notify you about the new content that we share with you every week. This will help us to produce great content for our professional audience. Let us know if there's something you would like us to discuss in future episodes. Please click the link in the show notes and you can ask your questions directly to me. Thank you for listening and we'll see you in the next episode.